Picture this. You're trapped in this beat-up, dying van on a forgotten mountain road. Outside, it's pitch black and freezing rain is just hammering against your windshield. You check your phone. Obviously, there is zero signal. No internet, no nothing. You are completely isolated in a place the rest of the world has totally forgotten about. Well, let's just dive right into it. Today, we're unpacking a really spine-chilling piece of folk horror called The Lanterns of Black Hollow. We're going to break down exactly what happens when our modern obsession with going viral crashes headfirst into an ancient, blood-soaked curse. We'll be exploring the absolutely terrifying mechanics of this village, the really dark side of human nature that keeps it running, and ultimately, the true price of greed.
Right off the bat, we get this incredibly chilling warning from a blind old woman in the village. She says, "They can wear your friends too." And honestly, that just sets the stakes perfectly. Because this isn't your standard story about monsters hiding under the bed or lurking in the dark. No, this is about mimicry. It's about deep paranoia. It is that horrifying realization that the people you literally trust with your life might not actually be who they say they are. It pulls us right into the reality of this forest, where surviving isn't just about outrunning whatever is chasing you. It's about looking at the person running next to you and trying to figure out if they're even human anymore.
Section 1. The Doomed Content Creators. A Journey for Views.
Okay, so to really understand this nightmare, we need to meet our crew. We've got 4 friends here. There's Arjun, the ambitious guy running the channel who's just absolutely desperate for viral horror content. We have Kabir, the wisecracking cameraman, Mira, who's the pragmatic editor trying to keep things grounded, and Sana, our mystery enthusiast. So they're driving this practically ancient white van up into a foggy mountain village, all for YouTube views. It is just the ultimate modern setup, right? They are totally trading their basic survival instincts for the promise of internet fame. But as they get deeper into the fog, things escalate so fast. First, with this heavy thud, the van's engine just completely dies. Then, the heavy rain suddenly stops, just way too suddenly. And this totally unnatural silence drops over them before a single, distant bell rings out in the forest. Dong. Dong. Then comes this soft, really broken, just completely wrong sound of children singing echoing through the trees. Finally, a flash of lightning hits, and it reveals an old woman standing perfectly still under a dead tree. Her face is totally hidden, and she's just holding a lantern.
So this old woman starts slowly approaching the van. And guys, she is leaving absolutely no footprints in the mud. None. When she speaks, her voice literally sounds like dry, dead leaves rubbing together. She warns them that they shouldn't go to Black Hollow tonight because the lanterns, these things she calls the hungry ones, are awake. Now, how does Kabir, our cameraman, react to this literal nightmare fuel? With total deadpan humor. He just goes, "I officially resign from friendship." It's such a great, funny moment that breaks the tension, but it also really hits the nail on the head. It shows us just how incredibly unprepared these highly connected digital age kids are for an ancient supernatural threat.
Section 2. Welcome to Black Hollow, the Village of Shadows. When the group actually arrives at the village on foot, the vibe is instantly claustrophobic. Black Hollow is just these small wooden houses clustered under giant trees. There's zero electricity, just these orange lanterns flickering through really thick fog. But the creepiest part? There are no kids playing, there are no dogs barking, it is just dead silent. And the villagers are all just staring at them, not smiling at all. If you look really closely, every single villager, down to the smallest toddler, is wearing a black thread around their wrist. It's a visual marker. It's this desperate message to the forest basically saying, "We belong here, do not take us." The village head, this guy Elias, lays down some incredibly strict survival rules. He warns them that tonight is the night of hollow eyes. He says at midnight, nobody leaves their homes, nobody opens doors, and if you hear knocking, you absolutely do not answer. In Black Hollow, curiosity literally gets you killed. The whole village is basically trapped in this endless cycle of trauma, hiding from these entities that come out of the forest, just hunting for new faces to steal.
Moving on to Section 3, the Midnight Knock. Do not answer.
So our group takes shelter at the local inn. The owner is this really jovial guy named Rafik, and he gives them this brief, warm moment of safety with hot soup and stories. But as the clock ticks closer to midnight, the whole village just completely shuts down. Lanterns go dim, doors get bolted shut, and at exactly 12 o'clock, the world outside goes terrifyingly silent. Rafik plunges their room into absolute pitch-black darkness. Suddenly, we're not just exploring a creepy town anymore, we are surviving a siege. In that dead silence, 3 soft knocks hit the front door. Then, they hear a little girl's voice. She's crying. She's saying she's freezing cold and begging for help. It is such a brilliant, cruel trap because it entirely weaponizes human empathy. Rafik actually has to physically hold Sana back from answering the door. And when he does, the voice outside starts to change. It twists unnaturally into this slow, deep, monstrous sound, saying, "Let me in." The knocking stops entirely. But then right at the window glass, this pale face appears. It has these huge empty eyes and a smiling mouth that is stretched way, way too wide.
Eventually, the creature vanishes back into the darkness. But then Sana looks up, and on the ceiling above them, there are muddy footprints, walking upside down. It's a detail that is just so wild. It tells us right away that these hollow ones completely defy the laws of nature and physics. They aren't just your run-of-the-mill monsters. They are a literal corruption of reality.
Section 4. Into the Cursed Forest. The Blind Woman's Secret.
Okay, so the next morning, the villagers are acting like absolutely nothing happened. Normal day, right? But Sana gets pulled aside by that blind woman from earlier, and she drops a massive lore bomb on us. These entities, they actually used to be villagers. Generations ago, the village would sacrifice innocent travelers to a forest spirit in exchange for wealth and protection. But, eventually the spirit turned on them. Their own greed is what actually birthed this curse. So now the hollow ones return every single year, constantly hungry, and the forest never lets any of the villagers leave. The dark secret here is that the villagers aren't innocent victims. They're the architects of their own nightmare. Meanwhile, back at the inn, Kabir is reviewing his camera footage from the day before, and he makes a terrifying discovery. In the background of one of his shots, just standing out in the trees, are these pale, silent figures, and one of them looks exactly like Mira. The real human Mira is terrified, she's expressive, she's loud, but the fake Mira in the footage, she is pale, totally silent, and has these wide, unblinking eyes. And standing right behind her are exact copies of Kabir, Sana, and Arjun. The hollow ones are already wearing their faces. They picked out their faces before the hunt even began.
Now, despite knowing all of this incredibly terrifying information, we hit the fatal flaw of our story. Arjun's absolute obsession with internet fame completely overrides his instinct to survive. In the middle of the night, he actually leaves the safety of the inn. He walks completely alone into the cursed forest just to get viral footage. He is literally willing to risk his soul for some subscribers. And because of his reckless greed, his friends are forced to do the unthinkable. They have to grab lanterns and walk out into those dark, cursed woods to save him. So they go deep into the woods. The fog is wrapping around the trees like thick smoke. And they finally find Arjun in this clearing. But it's hypnotic and horrific all at once. It's not just a forest, it's like a graveyard made of light. There are hundreds of these orange lanterns just hanging from the branches. But when they get closer and actually look inside, it's not a candle. Inside every single lantern, human eyes are floating in this dark liquid, and Arjun is just standing right in the middle of it all. His own eyes are completely pitch black now, and he just tells them that the forest remembers hunger. Then, the creatures start emerging from the shadows all around them, wearing human faces, smiling, and just waiting.
And then total chaos just explodes. Dozens of these hollow ones start chasing the crew through the forest. But right in the middle of this sheer, absolute terror, we get arguably one of the greatest tension-breaking moments ever. Kabir is running for his life, he's dramatically crying about how he hasn't even gotten rich yet. Suddenly a creature leaps right onto him, and Kabir, without missing a beat, swings his heavy camera tripod like a baseball bat and screams, "Take this, demonic Wi-Fi router!" It is hilarious. It's this brilliant little clash between modern tech culture and ancient folk horror, and it perfectly reminds us exactly who these characters are, even when they're literally fighting for their lives.
And that brings us to the finale. Section 5. The Real Monsters. The First Lantern.
So the survivors, well, everyone except Arjun, who sadly gets dragged off into the dark, they finally reach this abandoned stone shrine deep in the woods. And this is where they confront the pulsing, beating core of the entire curse, the First Lantern. This thing is enormous. It's made entirely out of bone and black wood, and it is just covered in hundreds of moving, whispering eyes that sound exactly like lost souls begging for help. Rafik had actually warned them about the final truth of this place. The magic here, it's not inherently evil. The First Lantern doesn't run on some dark demonic sorcery. It feeds entirely on the dark side of human nature. It is powered by guilt. It runs on selfishness, human cruelty, and betrayal. The villagers sacrificed those travelers for gold, and that pure greed is the only thing keeping the lantern burning. The true monster was never the forest itself. The forest just became a mirror and a punishment for the selfishness already hiding inside people.
But then Sana figures it out. She realizes the exact thing she needs to do to break the curse. While the Hollow Ones are closing in on them, she remembers something her mother used to say, that fear grows strongest when people stop protecting each other. See, while Arjun gave in to his own selfish greed for views, Sana chooses the opposite. She chooses resilience and protection. She pushes her way right through the creatures, climbs up the shrine, and takes a flaming torch, shoving it directly into that massive bone structure. The first lantern shatters, and instantly all the Hollow Ones just collapse to the ground like cut puppets.
When morning finally breaks, the curse over Black Hollow is actually lifted. But tragically, Arjun is gone forever. They do find his camera though, half buried in the dirt, and it's still recording. In his final, glitching message, he's looking straight into the lens. It seems like, even in death, he finally understood the true nature of Black Hollow. He leaves us with this really profound thought. He says, "Monsters are created when humans stop caring about each other." It is a devastating realization, but for him, it just came a little too late.
Now, here is what you absolutely have to take away from this epilogue, because the dark irony of the internet's response is just wild. Months later, Kabir uploads the footage, and of course, it goes incredibly viral. But instead of people taking this deep, existential warning seriously, millions of viewers just mask their dread with jokes. Kabir's frantic scream during the chase, it gets turned into this massive internet meme about surviving Indian relatives. It perfectly captures how we, as a highly digital society, deal with tragedy. We consume horror, and then we immediately package it up into neat, digestible, funny little content drops just to avoid dealing with the really dark truths underneath it all.
But for the few people who watched that documentary all the way to the very last frame, the frame where a single orange lantern is still glowing out there in the forest, a totally different conversation started. It's a question that cuts right through all the jokes, right through the memes, and gets straight to the absolute core of who we are when the lights finally go out. I want you to think about this. If your friend entered a cursed forest for views, would you go in to save them?